Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something that, well, sounds a little backwards on the surface, detach to attract.
Right.
This idea is central to Kelvin W. Nathan's audiobook, You Become What You Quietly Expect, and it really gets into how our constant push, striving to get what we want, can actually work against us.
Mm-hmm.
The material you shared, Our Learner, explores this exact paradox,
Yeah.
that bringing our desires into reality often starts not with all that frantic effort, but maybe in the stillness, that quiet space of wanting without desperately needing.
Exactly. And this deep dive, our mission really, is to try and unravel that very paradox. How does letting go, how does detaching actually draw our desires closer?
Yeah, because it feels so counter to most of the advice we usually hear, right? Push harder, strive more.
Right. But the insights here, they point towards a pretty fundamental shift, I think. Moving away from actively chasing what we want towards truly embodying its essence, becoming it almost.
And our goal here is to figure out exactly how to make that shift. How do we transition from feeling like we're constantly reaching, grasping, to becoming someone who quietly sort of anticipates good things coming their way?
It really seems to hinge on this core idea, doesn't it? Becoming the person who quietly expects what they desire.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. The audiobook highlights that manifestation, this whole process of bringing things into being, it kicks off with a spark, right? A desire, an intention.
Mm-hmm.
We set our sights, maybe we visualize, perhaps use affirmations. We build up this initial energy, this excitement. But then, somewhere along the line, it can start to feel, I don't know.
Heavy.
Yeah, heavy is a good word. Like you're
Uh,
constantly pushing against this invisible resistance.
Exactly. And that initial buzz just kind of fades and it turns into this persistent feeling of, well, it's not here yet.
And what's fascinating is how the sources describe this pivot point. That initial desire, full of possibility, it can actually morph into a feeling of lack.
Well, the more our focus stays fixed on the absence of what we want, the more we inadvertently amplify that very absence. It's a classic conundrum.
The stronger the yearning, the more elusive the goal seems.
Precisely. That constant, intense wanting can actually strengthen the feeling, the energy of not having.
It's like the universe sometimes operates in reverse. Nathan's audiobook uses this compelling image. What you chase tends to run, and what you release often flows.
Mm.
Which is so against our ingrained instincts, isn't it? We're taught to pursue goals relentlessly, chase them down.
But if we connect this to a broader understanding, the sources suggest the universe isn't really responding to the volume of our requests. The begging, the desperation, even those surface-level affirmations we might repeat.
Okay.
Instead, it seems to be attuned to our fundamental state of being, our underlying beliefs, our deeply felt truths, and importantly, that quiet expectation Nathan emphasizes.
So it's less about how loudly we shout our needs.
Yeah, much less about that, and more about the energetic signature we consistently emit. Think of it like tuning into a specific radio frequency. You need the right frequency to get the broadcast.
Right, okay. So detachment in this context.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't about suddenly becoming indifferent, is it? It's not about losing interest or just, throwing in the towel on our dreams.
No, absolutely not. The audiobook is quite clear on that distinction.
Okay.
Detachment, as it's presented here, is more about letting go of that intense urge to micromanage the how and the when.
The how and the when, yeah.
It's about releasing that white-knuckle grip on the final outcome. The material stresses this isn't because we don't value our desires, but because that clinging energy, that desperate need, can actually distort our own frequency and create a lot of internal friction.
Okay, so the real work then, they argue, isn't necessarily about piling on more effort, more hustle, more trying.
Yeah.
It's actually about dissolving that internal resistance. It's less about proving our worthiness to the universe,
Yeah.
and maybe more about realizing that our inherent worth was never really up for debate in the first place.
That's a really important point about our inner landscape.
Yeah.
The sources talk about becoming the version of ourselves who already anticipates the desired outcome naturally.
Right.
It's subtle, but it's a profound shift. Moving from perpetually trying to manifest something to simply living as if it's already a done deal, energetically speaking.
So it involves aligning our core sense of self with what we want, so receiving it feels, well, normal.
Yeah.
Almost inevitable.
Exactly. It's like achieving energetic alignment, isn't it? Holding the vision clearly in your mind and heart, but without that tense, gripping feeling of needing it to happen right now in this exact way.
Yeah. And the audiobook shares some relatable examples, too. Thinking about how often the really good things in life, like friendships, opportunities, they just sort of appear when we're not frantically searching for them,
And the actions we take from this more detached state, they're different too. They tend to spring from a place of trust and quiet confidence.
rather than panic and FOMO, fear of missing out.
Precisely. The universe, as the sources point out, it acts a bit like a mirror, reflecting our dominant inner state back to us, not just our spoken wishes or loud demands.
So it's a move away from that constant striving, that chasing energy, towards something more grounded, more
Yeah.
serene.
Yes, from merely hoping and wishing to actually knowing, from trying to micromanage every little detail to trusting the overall process.
And instead of constantly checking the clock, is it here yet? When's it coming? It's about being more present in the here and now.
And what's truly insightful here, I think, is the idea that true detachment actually carves out the energetic space for our desires to materialize.
Okay, say more about that.
When we release that compulsion, that need to prove our worth by achieving a specific result, we free up a significant amount of energy. The sources suggest this liberated space becomes almost magnetically charged, drawing in what we desire. Think of it like decluttering a room. Suddenly there's space for new things to actually enter.
That's a great analogy. Okay, so the initial step in all of this, according to the audiobook, it's about really examining ourselves honestly. Self-awareness.
Are we operating in that mode of chasing, or are we attracting? Are we in harmony with what we want, or are we maybe subtly resisting it? Are we loudly hoping, or are we quietly expecting? It's fundamentally about becoming aware of our current energetic state.
And the sources really underscore that manifestation isn't some kind of, mystical trick. It's about resonance. It requires a coherence, a match between our inner world, our feelings, our beliefs, and our outer aspirations.
So to attract love, we need to embody love.
Essentially, yes. Or to draw in abundance, we need to anticipate abundance, feel abundant now. To cultivate peace, we need to embody peace. It's about becoming a vibrational match.
So the key takeaway seems to be that when we learn to hold our desires with this calm detachment, this quiet expectation, life begins to meet us there.
Exactly. Not because we're forcing it, but because we've actually become the version of ourselves who naturally receives it. It's about letting go, not as a strategy, but as a genuine inner transformation.
And expecting quietly, not as some tactic, but as a fundamental truth of our being. You don't have to chase what you're meant to receive. You just have to stop creating the energetic obstacles.
Okay, now let's dig deeper into this idea of quiet expectation. The audiobook positions it as an even more potent frequency than, say, hustle or affirmations. That's quite a bold claim.
It is, isn't it? And the sources elaborate on why. Quiet expectation, they explain, is the subtle internal knowing that our desires are already on their way. It's a deeply rooted certainty that doesn't require constant external validation or cheerleading.
So it's not about just reciting affirmations over and over.
No, it goes deeper. It's like a calm undercurrent of belief that flows beneath the surface noise of our doubts and worries.
And it stems from that deep internal alignment we were just discussing, right? When our core identity, who we believe ourselves to be, finally aligns with our aspirations.
Precisely. It's not about faking it till you make it, necessarily. It's about genuinely evolving into the person who already embodies the qualities, the energy of their desired outcome.
The sources contrast this with loudly proclaiming affirmations or constantly needing external approval.
Exactly. Quiet confidence, grounded in this quiet expectation, is portrayed as inherently magnetic. It doesn't need to beg or pursue, it simply allows. You can't really fake this level of expectation because it's not some superficial technique. It's a genuine inner transformation.
And the audiobook highlights that this quiet expectation shows up in how we navigate the inevitable bumps in the road, the delays, the uncertainties.
Yeah. Not with panic or frustration.
But with a sense of presence, calmness.
Yes, exactly. It's trusting that things are unfolding as they should, even when we can't yet see the physical evidence, because we fundamentally believe we are worthy of receiving and that life, generally speaking, supports us.
And what's critical here, it seems, is that quiet expectation doesn't generate the same kind of resistance that forceful striving often does.
Right. It aligns our internal state with our desired outcomes so seamlessly that there's very little energetic friction. We're not reaching from a place of lack. We're allowing from a place of alignment. Think of it like a well-oiled machine versus one that's grinding and struggling.
Okay. So it's about releasing those rigid timelines and that urge to micromanage the how of our manifestations.
Yes. And instead, trusting in the inherent intelligence of life to deliver what's meant for us in the most appropriate way and at the most opportune time. even if that time isn't our preferred time.
The sources offer a valuable starting point for cultivating this quiet expectation, becoming aware of our subtle internal dialogue.
Those quiet conversations we have with ourselves.
What are our default assumptions? Do we automatically anticipate disappointment, or do we lean towards joy? Do we default to fear or to faith?
Recognizing these unconscious patterns is the crucial first step towards reshaping them, because they're running the show often.
And it's not simply about trying to force positive thoughts on top of negative ones, is it?
No, it's more about a gradual recalibration, kind of reconditioning our nervous system to anticipate good things as our normal state of being.
How does that happen?
The audiobook suggests it happens through consistent, aligned thoughts and actions. Showing up for ourselves, honoring our needs, establishing healthy boundaries. These are the moments where quiet expectation takes root and genuinely grows.
And one of the clear indicators that we're stepping into this quiet expectation, according to the sources, is that we begin to shed that incessant need to prove ourselves.
Ah, yes. That feeling of needing validation.
The performing for worthiness that starts to fade away.
Mhm.
We trust our own timing, we release what no longer serves us without resentment, and we develop this deep knowing that what is truly meant for us will inevitably find its way to us.
And when we begin to live from this space of quiet expectation, the audiobook notes that life itself starts to feel more fluid, doesn't it?
Yeah, more synchronicities, more moments of flow, things feel lighter, more in harmony.
Not because we've stopped caring, but because we've stopped resisting, we've stopped pushing against the current.
The fundamental insight here seems to be that true manifestation demands this energetic clarity, this way of living as though our desires are already en route.
Right. Quiet expectation, the sources suggest, is perhaps the most resonant frequency in the realm of manifestation. It's a deep, unwavering knowing. I understand who I am, I recognize my inherent worth, and I am ready to receive in peace.
That inner readiness, that calm certainty,
Yeah.
that's what truly draws everything in. Okay, let's shift focus now to this powerful idea. You attract who you are, not what you want. This feels like another really indispensable piece of this puzzle.
It really does. Because the audiobook challenges that common idea of just, stating our desires and expecting the universe to deliver them like a cosmic shopping list.
Yeah.
It posits that what ultimately shapes our reality isn't just our conscious wants, but who we are at a fundamental level, our underlying frequency, our core beliefs, our ingrained identity. We don't attract a shopping list. We attract a reflection of who we are being.
That can be a challenging idea to accept, I think, because it shifts the responsibility inward.
Definitely. If our external circumstances aren't aligning with our desires, the sources suggest it's not necessarily about changing external actions first. It's often about a misalignment deep within our own self-concept.
Exactly. We might be saying all the right affirmations, taking all the steps that look right on the surface.
Doing all the things.
Right. But if our fundamental beliefs about ourselves, our worthiness, our capabilities, what we truly feel we deserve haven't evolved, then our results will likely continue to reflect that inner state.
Our deeply ingrained identity dictates what feels familiar and normal, right? And we unconsciously tend to maintain that normalcy, even if it doesn't align with our conscious desires. It's like an internal thermostat.
And the sources highlight how this can manifest as self-sabotage,
Mm.
pushing things away.
We might unconsciously push away loving relationships if we harbor a deep-seated expectation of abandonment, maybe?
Or find ways to dissipate wealth if we subconsciously believe that financial stability is inherently precarious or maybe even undeserved. Our outer life, the audiobook emphasizes, cannot consistently outgrow our inner identity in the long run. It will inevitably revert back to the level of our self-belief unless that belief itself undergoes a genuine transformation.
So simply desiring something without engaging in that essential inner work of identity transformation, it's kind of like trying to plant seeds in barren soil.
Right. The intentions might be sincere, the vision beautiful, but the ground itself isn't prepared to receive and nurture the seeds.
That's why the audiobook argues that becoming is truly transformational, not just a superficial makeover. It demands a fundamental shift in how we perceive ourselves, how we talk to ourselves, and how we carry ourselves through the world.
In this process of becoming, it isn't about forcing a new identity onto ourselves overnight, is it?
No, it's more about consistent, conscious alignment. It begins by asking ourselves, who is the version of me that already embodies this reality I desire?
Okay.
How does that person think? How do they move through the world? How do they respond to challenges? What are their core beliefs about themselves and about life?
And then we consciously begin to act in harmony with that future self.
Exactly. Not perfectly, maybe, but with consistent intention. day by day.
It's about embodying that future identity in the present moment, rather than waiting for external validation to prove who we are.
Right. It's shifting from a mindset of hoping and trying to one of knowing and receiving. The audiobook describes truly magnetic individuals as those who are deeply aligned with their desires, operating from an inner core of certainty that just radiates outward. You can feel it.
Identity work, the sources emphasize, is a very foundation of lasting change. It's not just about intellectually convincing ourselves of something new.
No, it goes deeper. It's about consciously releasing what no longer serves us, those outdated beliefs, inherited patterns, limiting emotional narratives that keep us stuck.
We stop clinging to old versions of ourselves, maybe versions forged in survival mode.
Right. And we consciously begin to create a self based on our intentions, reconnecting with who we were before we were conditioned to doubt our worth or play small.
And when we operate from that authentic core, our expectations naturally evolve. We stop settling for less than we deserve. We stop seeking external permission.
Yeah, we just know our inherent worth and act accordingly. The audiobook acknowledges that this process of becoming can feel uncomfortable sometimes.
Because it necessitates venturing into the unfamiliar, stepping beyond our current comfort zone.
Precisely. But that discomfort, the sources suggest, isn't necessarily a signal that something is wrong. It's often an indication of expansion. We are shedding what no longer fits to make room for the version of ourselves that aligns with our deepest desires.
And we'll recognize we're on the right path, not necessarily when our desires magically materialize overnight.
Right, but maybe when the very idea of them begins to feel normal, familiar, almost inevitable within the landscape of our imagination. When it starts to feel like home.
So the central message here is really powerful. We attract who we are.
Yeah.
When we genuinely become the person who quietly expects, effortlessly receives, and peacefully embodies their truth, the world will inevitably reflect that inner alignment back to us. Okay, now let's address another concept that can be easily misunderstood. Detachment is not indifference. This seems crucial to get right.
Absolutely. It's a common misconception. The audiobook anticipates that many might misinterpret detachment as being, emotionally cold, apathetic, or simply surrendering their desires altogether.
And pretending not to care.
Exactly. But the sources are very clear that true detachment is the very antithesis of indifference. It's not the absence of desire, but the absence of desperation.
Okay.
It's about releasing that clinging, needy energy and caring deeply, but from a place of inner peace, not frantic anxiety or panic.
So desire itself isn't the problem. The audiobook even calls it sacred, right? A vital sign of our aliveness, our potential for growth.
Yes, desire is natural and healthy. The issue arises when that healthy desire morphs into an unhealthy attachment. When our fundamental sense of self-worth gets tangled up with whether or not that specific desire manifests in our lives.
Okay. So attachment carries this heavy energetic burden, rooted in a feeling of lack. Like we're incomplete without that thing.
Precisely. It creates internal pressure, clouds our intuitive guidance, and keeps us locked in a state of perpetual anxiety about getting it. And the universe, the sources remind us, doesn't respond favorably to force. It resonates with clarity, trust, and authentic alignment.
So detachment is about releasing that forceful grip, allowing our desires the space to breathe and unfold naturally.
Yes. It's about holding the vision in our hearts with love and intention, without trying to strangle it into existence through sheer willpower or relentless effort.
It's about showing up fully in our lives with presence and engagement, even as we're working towards something more.
Exactly. And allowing for the possibility of our dreams becoming reality without demanding a specific outcome on a rigid timeline that we dictate.
And crucially, it's about trusting that our inherent worth isn't conditional. It doesn't depend on whether or not we achieve this specific desire.
Right. We remain grounded in our core identity, even when we don't yet see the tangible results in our external world. This emotional freedom, the sources suggest, is incredibly empowering. It signifies that we are no longer at the mercy of our desires, but are in a collaborative partnership with them.
So when we detach, the audiobook explains, we don't stop dreaming. We just stop suffering over the fact that our dreams haven't arrived yet.
We don't abandon our vision. We just relinquish the need to dictate its exact form or its precise timing. We recognize our role is to align ourselves energetically, to embody the qualities of our desires, and then to allow the universe, or life, to orchestrate the details.
Detachment opens the door for, well, divine timing, a more effortless flow.
Yes, exactly. It's about genuinely saying, I am open to receiving this or something even better that serves my highest good, and truly meaning it from a place of unwavering trust, not just as a backup plan.
And this trust becomes the bedrock of emotional neutrality. So we're not on that exhausting roller coaster.
Right. No more soaring high hopes followed by crushing disappointments. We're not interpreting every delay as a personal failure or a sign of abandonment. We're just maintaining our inner alignment, regardless of the external circumstances. Our passion isn't gone, it's purified, no longer fueled by fear or desperate urgency.
Detachment allows us to act from inspiration, not panic,
Mhm.
to respond thoughtfully, not react impulsively.
Yes, and to genuinely find enjoyment in the journey itself rather than constantly fixating on the destination. And in this more relaxed state of inner certainty, the very things we desire often begin to gravitate towards us.
Not because we've stopped caring.
No, but because we finally released the energetic resistance, that anxious static that
Mhm.
was inadvertently pushing them away.
It's that classic experience, isn't it? The moment we stop obsessively searching for something, it often seems to just appear.
And the audiobook clarifies that this isn't just coincidence, it's often a direct result of a shift in our energetic state. When we release that tight emotional grip, we create a receptive space that becomes magnetic, drawing in experiences that resonate with our newfound calm confidence, rather than our former anxious yearning.
The irony, the sources point out, is that when we truly let go of needing something so desperately, we evolve into the very version of ourselves who can finally receive it with grace and ease.
Exactly. We're no longer vibrating from a place of perceived lack, but from a deep sense of inner wholeness. And wholeness naturally attracts more wholeness.
The experience of detachment will look different for everyone, I imagine.
For sure. But the core shift is consistently from fear to faith, from the illusion of control to open receptivity, and from frantic urgency to peaceful presence.
So the practice of detachment is really a daily conscious choice.
Yes, an intentional decision to approach our desires with openness, to take inspired action without obsessive attachment to the outcome, and to surrender what lies beyond our control while honoring what we can influence, which is primarily our own energy and response.
It's fundamentally an act of deep trust.
And the more we cultivate this state, the more life begins to meet us there, with increased flow and unexpected synchronicities.
Ultimately, the sources suggest that detachment isn't indifference. It's actually the most profound form of self-care.
Right. It stems from the deep knowing that we are already inherently whole, worthy, and enough. And that whatever is truly meant for us can only be temporarily delayed until our energetic state aligns perfectly with its arrival.
And when that alignment occurs, not through force, but through gentle release, what we once relentlessly pursued will quietly find its way into our experience. Okay, now, let's turn our attention to a potentially undermining factor in this process, the ego's grip on outcomes.
Ah, yes, the ego. That part of us that so desperately wants to be in charge, that craves the illusion of certainty and absolute control. The audiobook describes it as relentlessly seeking guarantees and fiercely resisting anything that involves the perceived vulnerability of waiting, surrendering, or trusting in the unseen forces of life.
That's a crucial insight. The ego's definition of safety is often deeply rooted in the familiar, isn't it? Even when that familiar territory is actually holding us back from growth and fulfillment.
Definitely. So when we set intentions for something new, something that propels us beyond our current comfort zone, the ego often instinctively tightens its grip. It demands to know every single detail of how things will unfold, obsessively focuses on timelines, and generates a significant amount of internal resistance.
Because the ego, the audiobook points out, primarily operates within the realm of the physical and tangible. It struggles to grasp the more subtle concepts of energetic alignment and, well, divine timing.
Exactly. Trusting in something we cannot see or directly manipulate can feel inherently risky, even threatening to the ego, which often leads to feelings of doubt, excessive overthinking, and that counterproductive fear-based effort we discussed earlier, trying too hard.
And the ego's relationship with outcomes is quite telling, isn't it?
Yeah.
It thrives on positive results because they provide validation. See, I did that. I made that happen.
Right. But when things don't align perfectly with its meticulously crafted plans, it can quickly descend into feelings of inadequacy, failure, and a profound sense of lost control. It tends to interpret delays not as potential realignments or necessary periods of preparation, but as personal setbacks and evidence of its own incompetence.
So the audiobook suggests that we are often being called to trust in something far greater than the ego's limited understanding, to willingly surrender that often illusory sense of control.
Yes, and step into a more collaborative and trusting partnership with the flow of life itself. But of course, that very act of surrender is precisely what the ego fiercely resists, because it requires humility and an acceptance of uncertainty.
Letting go of the ego's tight grip on outcomes doesn't mean we stop caring about what happens, does it?
No, not at all. But it fundamentally shifts our perspective on how those outcomes relate to our inherent worth. We begin to view them less as a measure of our value and more as reflections of our internal alignment.
Ah, okay. So we transition from a conditional sense of self, I am enough only when I achieve this, to a more empowering, unconditional state. I am inherently enough, regardless of external circumstances.
Exactly. And when our sense of self-worth is no longer tethered to external validation, the audiobook explains that we liberate ourselves from that emotional roller coaster of the manifestation process.
We stop reacting with panic or despair when things are delayed or don't unfold exactly as we'd envisioned.
Right, because our inner peace isn't contingent on immediate or specific results.
This doesn't mean we become passive, though.
No, not passive bystanders. But our approach becomes more grounded and steady. We continue to take inspired action, but it's fueled by presence and intuitive guidance, rather than by anxious pressure and the relentless need to control every minute detail. We learn to create space for unexpected synchronicities and to trust in the greater intelligence guiding our path.
It's a deeper, more sustainable form of personal power, maybe.
That's how the sources frame it. The ego might be loud and insistent, the audiobook cautions, but it's not always the wisest advisor. It often confuses frantic busyness with genuine productivity, rigid control with true safety, and intense striving with authentic power.
True power, it suggests, is often quiet, a calm inner knowing.
Yes, a knowing that what is truly meant for us is already ours energetically, and our primary task is simply to align ourselves with that reality, not to chase it down relentlessly.
The more we identify with the ego's often fearful voice, the more intense that urge to prove and protect ourselves becomes.
Right. Conversely, the more we consciously return to our inner center, the more clearly we remember that our deepest truth isn't defined by fleeting external circumstances. This remembrance allows us to navigate the world with greater grace and ease, rather than with constant grasping and striving.
The audiobook acknowledges the ego will flare up sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Especially when things don't go to plan or doubts surface.
Absolutely. It's normal. In those moments, it's crucial to approach ourselves with compassion, simply noticing the ego's fearful panic without becoming completely consumed by it. A conscious breath, a moment of quiet stillness, can help us gently return to the present and reconnect with our deeper sense of self.
Ultimately, the sources conclude that willingly releasing the ego's relentless need to control outcomes brings about a profound sense of inner freedom.
Yes, we stop resisting what is, stop fighting against the natural flow, and stop measuring our inherent worth based on external achievements or arbitrary timelines.
Cultivating a steady, unwavering trust in our unique path.
Leads to cleaner, more aligned energy, more inspired actions, a more naturally magnetic presence, and ultimately allows our deepest desires to manifest when our soul is truly at peace, not just when our ego is temporarily satisfied. Okay, let's shift focus now to the often overlooked importance of energetic availability and space. This feels very practical.
It does indeed. The audiobook starts by saying every manifestation originates with a signal, our energy, intention, emotional state.
Right, but the universe, operating on resonance, doesn't just respond to what we say we want, it responds to what we are truly energetically available to receive.
That's a huge distinction. We can want something desperately,
Mm-hmm.
but if we haven't consciously created the space for it in our energy field, our habits, beliefs, environment, it just won't have anywhere to land.
Exactly. It's not punishment, it's just a reflection of our current state of readiness. Are we actually ready to have it?
Energetic availability, the audiobook clarifies, goes beyond just intellectual wanting. It's about being a genuine vibrational match for the whole experience of receiving it.
Our nervous system needs to be able to hold it. Our mind needs to believe it's possible. Our daily life needs to have room internally and externally to support its presence. Often, the blocks aren't lack of deserving or effort, but simply a lack of space.
Can you give some examples?
Sure. The sources mention things like wanting love while still holding on to old resentments, or desiring abundance while constantly stressed about lack, or seeking clarity in a physically cluttered home. These create energetic contradictions.
So true manifestation often begins with the seemingly mundane act of making space.
Yes. Which isn't always the glamorous self-help activity we imagine. Sometimes it looks like consciously walking away from misaligned relationships that drain us.
Or decluttering our homes.
We're learning to say no to commitments that don't serve us, or just being more mindful of the thoughts we entertain and the conversations we engage in.
Space isn't just physical. It's mental, emotional, spiritual.
Absolutely. And the more conscious space we cultivate in all these areas, the more potential we create for life to surprise us in positive ways.
And this is where letting go becomes so vital again.
Right. Letting go, the sources remind us, isn't loss for the soul, it's expansion. We release what wasn't meant to stay, which feels uncomfortable maybe, but it's necessary to create energetic availability for what is meant for us.
Energetic availability is also linked to boundaries, isn't it? What we tolerate sets the tone.
Definitely. If we habitually allow draining energies in, we're signaling we're okay holding space for that kind of reality.
So every time we reinforce a healthy boundary, say no to misalignment, or prioritize rest,
We're sending a powerful message to ourselves and the universe that we're ready for and more of what nourishes us and no longer available for what depletes us. That clarity is magnetic.
this also loops back to identity work, deeply believing we are someone who lives in this new reality with ease.
Yes, because subconscious beliefs can create so much static. Beliefs like love is dangerous or success is exhausting.
They create resistance.
Exactly. Clearing that static requires honesty, slowing down, listening to our body's subtle contractions when we think about our desires. Where does it feel tight? Where is the no?
The sources acknowledge that creating space doesn't always come with perfect clarity. Sometimes it's just about simplifying, removing noise, creating stillness.
Right. Start there. Insights often surface in the space we create. Intuition gets clearer.
And there's a radical act of abundance in saying no to something before the yes arrives, releasing the almosts.
Yes. Trusting what's truly aligned is coming. The audiobook powerfully states, staying energetically full of the wrong things leaves no room for the right ones. Space is potential.
Ultimately, energetic availability is about being present now, not waiting for the manifestation to make us whole.
Exactly. We make space not from lack, but from expansion. Not from emptiness, but from openness.
Okay, let's turn to the subtle yet incredibly powerful force of expectation, the subtle language of belief.
This really feels like the linchpin holding everything together. The audiobook describes expectation as this profoundly underestimated force in manifestation. The energetic current carrying intention, the bridge between inner identity and external reality.
Yeah. Desire says, I want, but expectation whispers, I know. And that difference is huge.
It is. True expectation isn't a superficial affirmation. It's a deep, unwavering certainty felt within, often unconsciously. It doesn't need constant proof or hype. It's a feeling, a visceral knowing.
And the audiobook points out that our prevailing energy, especially if it's tinged with doubt or fear, will override any affirmations we try to project.
Right. The universe responds most strongly to our deepest emotional baseline, our true, often unconscious expectations.
For our life patterns often reflect these inner expectations. Like expecting rejection means we interpret neutrality as a threat.
Exactly. Or expecting delays means we find evidence of them everywhere. These expectations act as powerful filters, shaping our perceptions and reinforcing themselves. Self-fulfilling prophecies.
So fundamentally shifting our expectations isn't just about changing vocabulary. It's a deep transformation in our relationship with ourselves and life.
Yes. It involves healing those parts of ourselves that have come to expect disappointment, abandonment, or feeling unsupported. These expectations are often deep emotional habits formed early on.
And these habits don't usually dissolve through just logic, right?
No. The audiobook emphasizes they shift through consistent lived experience, through dedicated practice of realignment, and a willingness to feel something new, to embrace a different possibility.
We essentially retrain our bodies and minds to believe a new reality is safe through small, consistent decisions.
Like believing in our worth, staying open to love, trusting in support, creating a new emotional home where the baseline expectation is abundance-based, not survival-based.
Expectation also shows up in how we prepare for things, bracing for impact versus making space, softening, allowing.
Exactly. That internal posture reflects our true belief.
The sources distinguish true expectation from entitlement, though.
Yes, that's important. Authentic expectation, rooted in trust and self-worth, is humble, not arrogant. It's aligning with our truth and trusting the universe responds to that alignment. Entitlement demands. True expectation opens and receives.
Cultivating supportive environments internally with self-talk, externally with our surroundings, is crucial for shifting expectations.
Absolutely. Practicing self-talk that's honest, kind, firm, forgiving, and consciously returning to alignment when old, limiting expectations creep in.
Over time, these new expectations start to feel natural. They become the new baseline.
Right. We stop needing constant reassurance. We operate from a deep inner knowing that what we seek is also seeking us, that the right connections are already in motion, often unseen.
We hold the vision with calm certainty because our energy is receiving, not chasing.
Expectation, the audiobook concludes, acts as the silent architect of our reality, shaping its tone, rhythm, clarity. It's the frequency of faith holding steady, the invisible thread connecting unseen to seen.
And when we consistently live in that quiet certainty, life effortlessly meets us there. Okay, now let's delve into the nuanced art of letting go without giving up. Another crucial distinction.
It really is. The audiobook carefully makes this distinction because many people mistakenly equate letting go with simply giving up.
Seeing it as weakness, lack of commitment.
Exactly. But the sources emphasize these are fundamentally different concepts with different energetic signatures.
So letting go isn't abandoning dreams.
No, it's consciously releasing our tight emotional grip on the specific manner in which those dreams must come true, stepping out of the way to allow for potentially even better outcomes.
Whereas giving up comes from resignation, believing it's no longer possible, slamming the door.
Precisely. Letting go is an act of profound trust, born from wisdom, not defeat. We still hold the intention, still move forward, but we relinquish the need to dictate the precise details or the exact timeline. We recognize life might deliver in unexpected, even better ways.
It's a shift from trying to exert rigid control to becoming a willing co-creator with life, moving from obsession to openness.
Yes. And the audiobook acknowledges this can feel uncomfortable initially, especially if we've equated control with safety.
But letting go actually gains us power, frees up energy.
Right. We liberate energy tangled in micromanaging and self-doubt. This freed energy becomes available for inspired action and clearer intuition. There's a sacred power that enters when we release the need for things to happen now and trust the wisdom often hidden in delays.
Because sometimes, the audiobook reminds us, we need to grow into the version who can actually hold the desire.
Exactly. Letting go means gracefully stepping into patient surrender, trusting the path is being cleared even when we can't see it.
We don't let go of the wanting that's natural and powerful.
No, but we release the emotional dependency, the belief that our happiness hinges entirely on that specific outcome.
Letting go is how we reclaim our inner power. By trusting both the arrival and our ability to be okay, even in its absence.
Yes. Moving forward without resistance, showing up with open hands, holding the dream without the heavy weight of rigid expectation. Living fully now, not postponing joy until a future milestone.
And ironically, that non-neediness often accelerates arrival. Life responds to peace and alignment, not force.
That's what the sources suggest. It doesn't mean doubt won't surface. Letting go is an ongoing practice. But each time we notice ourselves tightening the grip, we can consciously release again, choosing trust over fear, allowing over control.
Ultimately, letting go without giving up creates a clear, unobstructed signal, no longer blocking blessings with doubt or smothering them with fear.
Right. Trusting what's meant for us is on its way. Our role is to align, embody, and allow the unfolding, moving through life as someone who simply gracefully receives. Okay, now let's talk about the crucial practices of emotional discipline and energetic hygiene, the ongoing maintenance needed.
Yes, the audiobook stresses that alignment isn't a one-off. It requires conscious cultivation and maintenance. This is where emotional discipline and energetic hygiene come in.
Because we can't effectively hold the frequency of what we desire if our inner world is constantly chaotic, right? Inconsistent energy creates a weak signal, undermining our desires.
Emotional discipline isn't suppressing feelings, though.
No, not at all. It's about developing awareness of our emotional responses and consciously choosing not to let them run the whole show. Responding thoughtfully instead of just reacting blindly. Maintaining inner centeredness.
Especially when faced with setbacks or delays.
Exactly. It's observing our emotional landscape with curiosity, creating that space between trigger and response, and choosing our subsequent thoughts, actions, and energy with intention. Many people live in near constant emotional reactivity, which hinders the consistency needed for manifestation.
And energetic hygiene. That's about what we expose ourselves to.
Yes, and the proactive measures we take to protect our field, our environment, conversations, digital consumption, daily habits. If we're constantly absorbing negativity, chaos, or others' fears, it's harder to maintain our own alignment.
So it's about establishing healthy boundaries. from sovereignty, not fear.
Right. Recognizing we don't have to engage in every conflict, absorb everyone's burdens, or let our energy be drained. Choosing peace over performance, staying informed without drowning in negativity. These are key aspects.
When our energetic field is clean and clear, we become a safer, more receptive space for desires to land, more grounded, magnetic, trustworthy.
That's the idea. Prioritizing rest, solitude, silence are presented as sacred practices for maintaining alignment. Intuition often speaks in whispers.
It's about slowing down enough to notice imbalances. When we're chasing versus attracting, saying yes out of guilt.
Ultimately, emotional discipline and energetic hygiene are about stepping into sovereignty, taking responsibility for our frequency.
Exactly. Prioritizing inner steadiness creates a resilient foundation that doesn't crumble with delays. It allows us to hold the energy of our desires even without immediate evidence, which is what turns potential into reality.
It's not about perfection, but holding emotions with grace, consistently returning to center. Right. Emotional discipline builds that muscle of remembering we are the source of our energy. Living from emotional clarity and energetic cleanliness stops us leaking energy and allows us to attract more effortlessly, becoming a stable, receptive presence. Okay, let's delve into receiving mode, becoming a clear vessel.
This feels pivotal. Manifestation isn't just about sending signals out, it's equally about cultivating our capacity to receive.
Right. The audiobook underscores this. Many people inadvertently block their desires by focusing too much on asking and neglecting the practice of consciously opening to receive.
Receiving is described as an active state of openness, a readiness of body, mind, spirit to accept what was imagined.
Yes, it involves trusting the flow, releasing attachment to the how and when, and proactively creating clear, energetic space for the outcome to enter without resistance.
There's a difference between wanting something and being ready to receive it.
A critical distinction. Wanting can coexist with resistance, doubt, self-sabotage. Readiness signifies inner peace and acceptance regarding both the possibility and the timeline.
And receiving can feel surprisingly vulnerable. Stepping into a new reality challenges identity and comfort zones.
Definitely. The audiobook insightfully suggests unconscious resistance to having can stem from fear of loss, increased exposure, or even losing the familiar comfort of longing.
Having our requires a shift in identity, living from a new energetic standard.
Yes. Subconscious programs like believing we must struggle to earn things or feeling unworthy can silently block what we're calling in. The journey often brings up old wounds, revealing where we still believe we must stay small or in control to feel safe.
So becoming a clear vessel means clearing out that inner landscape of fear, guilt, unworthiness.
Right. Cultivating inner space to genuinely welcome desires, not filling moments with worry or overanalysis. The paradox is that receiving often happens through surrender, not force.
We get what we desire not by grabbing, but by aligning with the version of self who knows it's already hers. Embodiment again.
Exactly. Living now as the person who receives easily. Walking in faith, leaving energetic space.
Not overbooking life to avoid the discomfort of the unknown.
Yeah.
Not trying to fix every gap with frantic action.
Right. Sometimes the most powerful thing is to become still and available, noticing subtle shifts and opportunities we'd miss otherwise.
The audiobook suggests training ourselves to receive by actually receiving compliments, support, joy.
Yes. Small daily moments signal to our subconscious that it's safe to have, normalizing the energy of abundance and fulfillment.
So bigger manifestations feel like a natural next step, not something foreign.
Precisely. Receiving mode isn't perfection, but returning to center quickly, breathing into openness. Stopping the pattern of making delays means something negative about our worth.
Being able to sit in the silence between desire and arrival without fear.
That's key. Knowing we don't have to do more or fix anything. Just get clear, stay open, allow, trust, hold space, keep the field clear, become the version welcoming with peace and presence.
Learning to receive with grace mirrors grace back to us. Okay, let's shift to magnetism over effort.
This feels like a more sustainable approach. The audiobook contrasts effort rooted in fear scarcity with aligned action that creates flow. It introduces magnetism.
Which stems not just from doing, but from being while doing. Quality of presence, embodied belief, energetic clarity.
Exactly. Magnetic people aren't always the busiest. They're grounded in worth, aligned, their energy speaks volumes. There's a misconception that manifestation requires relentless work.
But the truth, according to the audiobook, is more about clean energy and steady alignment.
Right. Acting from fullness, expressing truth, following intuition. This inspired action feels light, efficient, joyful, not forced or heavy.
When we shift focus from fear-based effort to inner magnetism, things come easier. Worth isn't tied to outcome. We stop forcing what isn't flowing.
Yes, trusting life meets us halfway when aligned, becoming a natural attractor. This takes courage, though unlearning more is better, facing stillness, allowing space.
Magnetism is about inner coherence. Thoughts, emotions, actions aligned.
Cultivated through choosing presence, trust, authenticity, aligned action feels clear, decisive, joyful. Doesn't drain or sacrifice peace.
Even when things take time, living in magnetism means holding the vision without fear, trusting the field is working unseen.
Yes, holding space with grace, I trust, I'm ready, I know it's done, is inherently magnetic.
Living as the magnetic self means releasing the need to earn what's ours. Stop performing for outcomes. Align with truth.
Exactly. Trusting our worth isn't negotiable, our presence is enough. No need to hustle for worthiness or chase what's meant to find us. Become the version receiving with ease, acting with clarity, resting in knowing. When aligned, effort is elegant, results inevitable. Now let's explore the illusion of control.
Control. The audiobook describes its seductive allure, offering the illusion of safety, predictability.
But beneath that veneer, the need for control breeds tension and fear, right? Fear of chaos, loss, vulnerability, disappointment.
The tighter we grip the reins, the more we restrict flow, create friction, rigidity, fragility.
Yes. And we limit the universe's ability to surprise us, maybe even rejecting possibilities better than our plans.
It's important to distinguish a healthy responsibility for our energy, boundaries, actions, from the unhealthy pursuit of controlling outcomes.
Right. Control is often anxious, compulsive, driven by preventing discomfort, avoiding surrender, and no amount of control truly shields us from life's unpredictability. It just leads to exhaustion.
Surrender isn't passive resignation, though.
No, it's profound trust in life's intelligence. Knowing desires are known, timing might differ. Loosening the grip allows us to receive, can't receive with clenched fists, can't hear guidance with a mind racing to control.
True surrender means recognizing control isn't the source of safety. Alignment is.
And the illusion of control often stems from past wounds, control as a coping mechanism.
Which limits our future. Manifestation is a dance with the unknown, requiring openness, vulnerability, trust beyond the ego.
Letting go of control brings discomfort initially, but ultimately gains clarity, flow, creativity, peace. We realize how much energy was wasted orchestrating details when the universe moves gracefully on its own.
Learning to follow signs, listen to nudges, respond to truth. Co-creating, not controlling.
Yes. Humility and surrender, acknowledging we don't have all the answers. Our job, stay aligned, take the next inspired step, allow space for divine intelligence to surprise, support, evolve us.
Shifting from demanding to trusting. A powerful trust born of experience.
Releasing control allows life to flow in unexpected but desired ways, not because we stopped caring, but because we stopped interfering, stepped out of the way, made space for grace.
It's a chapter of evolution. Softening into trust, remembering real power, comes from clarity.
And clarity arises when the mind is quiet, heart open, energy grounded. Control feels safe, but is a cage. Surrender feels risky, but is the beginning of freedom. An aligned, abundant, authentic life unfolds in that freedom. Now let's explore silence speaks, manifestation in stillness.
Silence. Often misunderstood, isn't it? Mistaken for emptiness, passivity, weakness. The audiobook says it holds unrecognized power.
Right. We're conditioned to believe doing speaking more moves us forward, but that noise can drown out guidance. Important shifts happen in silence. Manifestation arises from vibration, which is most coherent in stillness.
Stillness isn't stagnation. It's the presence of alignment, inner equilibrium. Mind quiet enough to hear intuition, heart soft enough to receive.
Exactly. Action has its place, but aligned action comes from clarity found in quiet. An inability to sit in silence hinders clear signals, often leading to fear-based actions.
The transformative silence is internal, pausing reactive loops being present.
Yes. Stillness reveals our true frequency, our underlying stories. We might fear silence because it strips away distractions from unresolved fears.
But the discomfort is unfamiliar, not dangerous. Moving through it creates wholeness.
That's the idea. Magnetic people often speak least. Their anchored energy communicates. Power is in listening deeply, and not how much you say.
Peace with silence equals peace with self. We stop chasing to fill a void and become the source.
Right. Manifestation in stillness means holding the energy without shouting. Trusting the signal is clear. Less interference means faster return. Breakthroughs often happen when we stop trying so hard, not stop caring, creating space for life to move toward us.
Stillness is a state of being, cultivated moment by moment. Breath, response, pause, listening to the body.
Yes, respecting silence, seeking it in everyday moments for recalibration. The world pulls us into noise. We consciously return to the inner quiet of who we are beyond roles.
Silence makes us more potent, sharpens intuition, deepens presence, strengthens the magnetic field.
It's not empty, it's full of clarity for alignment. Most powerful shifts come from being still enough to allow, resting in quiet confidence. What's meant for you is already yours in frequency, making its way into form. When it arrives, it feels like the natural outcome of who you've become in silence. Now let's turn to embodying the version of you who already has it.
This feels like the core practice. Manifestation is about becoming the version aligned with the desire, so arrival is a natural match.
Exactly. That version exists as a potential self, waiting for us to step into alignment. Embodiment bridges wanting and having, collapsing the space between past and future self.
It requires deep commitment,
Yep.
aligning thoughts, behaviors, energy, decisions with that desired self.
Yes, congruence, not perfection. Daily choices reflect our current identity. We start making decisions from the perspective of the future self, the one living in peace, love, abundance.
Mindset evolves, emotional baseline shifts, habits reflect arrival. We embody the energy now in small ways, shaping the future moment by moment.
Asking, how would I think if I already had it? Likely grounded, trusting, open, present. That inner environment attracts a matching reality.
And how would I behave? Maybe keeping promises to self, setting boundaries, choosing joy, even how we walk, carry ourselves, enter a room.
All expressions of embodiment. The body is key. The nervous system must feel safe in the new identity. Resistance often shows as procrastination, self-sabotage, confusion.
So embodiment includes regulating the nervous system, breathwork, stillness, mindful movement.
Yes, coherent energy makes you magnetic. Asking, what would my next level self do in this moment? Accesses inner wisdom. Choosing alignment with that higher self expands our capacity to hold more.
Becoming the evidence, not waiting for it. Living now as someone who receives easily.
Walking in faith, leaving space. Feeling love, worth, security now as a commitment to the truth of our wholeness. Choosing supportive thoughts, honoring worth through actions, reflecting knowing in words.
The desired self becomes the new normal. We stop needing reassurance, feel peace in silence, trust our timing, make expansive choices because we've accepted desires as an extension of who we are.
Choosing yourself, giving yourself authority, living as if you are ready. Manifestation is resonance. Fully embodying the desired self naturally aligns life to meet you there. Okay, let's discuss testing times and energetic neutrality.
Ah, yes. That stalling point where excitement gives way to uncertainty. Temptation to give up or revert to old patterns.
The audiobook frames these moments not as punishment, but as tests from our own energy field. Can we hold the new frequency without external confirmation? Can we remain neutral?
It's an energetic threshold between old and new reality. Our response matters.
Hugely. Easy to trust when things flow. The real shift is staying in faith when life seems unchanged. Energetic neutrality means observing without dramatic meaning, witnessing without hijacking emotions.
Neutrality doesn't label delays as failure or disappointments as abandonment.
No, it's staying centered. I see this, but I choose not to react from fear. I stay in alignment. It's not numbness, but calm from inner trust, holding desire without resistance.
Being in the space between what was and what's becoming without collapsing in doubt.
Yes, the energetic field becomes steady, consistent, allowing manifestation to complete. The universe responds to coherence, testing times refine it, reveal belief cracks. Hold those parts with compassion, integrate them, teach safety and steadiness.
Testing times often signal closeness. Reality adjusting. We pass through by holding that neutrality threshold.
Right. Holding the new identity so clearly, the old reality can't stick. Refusing to abandon yourself when things aren't perfect. Stop negotiating your energy.
Return to presence. Don't overanalyze. Just breathe, ground, ask, what would the already has me do?
Small acts of self-trust shift frequency. Choosing alignment without results collapses timelines. Energetic neutrality is maturity, the end of bargaining, emotional whiplash.
Inner world stops reacting, becomes the source of stability.
From this place, you hold desires with ease, having built the inner structure. Nervous system doesn't panic, mindset doesn't collapse. No longer confusing silence with absence or waiting with failure. Hold the vision, hold peace, let energy speak louder than fear. Old reality is fading. Neutrality signals you're no longer feeding it. Now let's focus on choosing faith over fear.
Every desire stretches us toward growth, the unknown, our future self.
Hmm.
And with each step, fear rises hesitation, overthinking, doubt, self-sabotage.
The audiobook reminds us fear is evidence of expansion, not that something is wrong. At every point, we have a choice. Feed fear or lean into faith.
Faith isn't the absence of fear, though.
No, it's moving in alignment with the vision with the fear present. Choosing trust, clarity, alignment over control. We don't need to eliminate fear, just stop letting it lead.
Fear offers opinions based on the past. Faith speaks from deeper, knowing who we are, what we're capable of, why we're here.
Exactly. Choosing faith means deciding what you want is already aligning, holding that I trust energy. It's rooted in experience, remembering things worked out before, strengthened by staying true to the vision, choosing presence over panic.
Fear lives in future speculation. Faith brings you to now, the only place of change.
Being rooted in the present makes you less susceptible. Faith is often a quiet choice, not checking outcomes constantly, continuing your day, believing it's on the way.
Small acts of faith recalibrate energy, shift timelines, collapse resistance.
Living from faith makes actions powerful, intentional, grounded in vision. Even small steps in faith move further than many in fear.
Fear convinces us we need more certainty before we can rest, believe, allow.
But certainty is chosen within. We don't need to know how, just that we'll keep walking the path. Choose faith by trusting your capacity to meet what comes. Alignment creates momentum.
Faith also means allowing the nervous system to feel safe in stillness, softening into patience.
Yes. These are powerful recalibrations, telling life, I am not desperate or afraid, I am ready. Holding that frequency authentically, not performing it.
Fear will visit. Recognize it as a sign of evolving. Choose again and again to trust, breathe, move forward, hold the vision, walk the path with faith in yourself. Okay, let's explore the art of non-reaction.
The quiet power and restraint. Not suppression or fear, but clarity and maturity. Choosing not to react is radical sovereignty in a world demanding instant response.
Alignment is tested and strengthened in moments of non-reaction.
Yes, it's not pretending to be unaffected or becoming passive, but choosing where energy flows. Non-reaction is a state of presence, the gap between stimulus and response where power lives.
Most react from habit programming, pulled into frustration, fear, doubt loops, reinforcing the past version, not the future one.
Exactly. Mastering non-reaction means mastering your state, becoming the observer, not the prisoner. Feeling without letting the feeling dictate the move. Noticing the pause before reacting.
Asking, who am I being? Acting from fear or clarity. Living in that pause makes you more grounded.
Non-reaction often leads to more intentional action. Calmly stating a boundary versus yelling. Stop reacting equals stop leaking energy, feeding unhelpful stories, reinforcing incompatible patterns.
Important during transitions. When old dissolves, new hasn't landed.
Very. Less you react to the leaving noise, more space for the arriving. Holding steady when wanting to flinch anchors the new energetic standard.
Non-reaction brings clarity to relationships too. Seeing clearly, not through emotional history, not assigning meaning personally, responding with precision, leading with presence.
Right. Measure progress by consistency and holding energy, not external looks. Staying rooted when expectations unmet, heart open when fear closes. Believing in the vision without constant reassurance reveals growth.
The field becomes magnetic due to being, not doing.
Non-reaction is a daily practice, a constant return to center. Triggers happen, but now you notice, creating choice. Over time, the baseline shifts less volatile, less dependent on outcomes opinions.
Stability makes energy undeniable. Presence speaks louder than reactions. True power is quiet, doesn't perform, rush, or prove.
Life is determined by how you meet it, not just what happens. Choosing non-reaction is self-leadership, trusting alignment over the moment's pull. Holding the field steady allows manifestations to find a clear path through resonance. Now let's discuss trusting the unseen timeline.
Often a difficult lesson, trusting what you can't yet see. That internal ache of a clear vision without visible confirmation.
Patience tested, faith stretched, identity questioned. The audiobook reminds us manifestation moves with readiness, energy, divine order, an unpredictable, illogical, but perfect timeline.
Deeper wisdom sees the full picture. Life arranges things, aligns people, experiences shifts we don't see.
Movement happens long before we notice, unfolding in unseen dimensions. We lose alignment by confusing lack of visible movement with no movement. Silence is often crucial preparation, foundations laid quietly.
Trusting the unseen timeline means surrendering the need to control the how and when.
Yes. Life isn't ignoring you. It's orchestrating alignment, highest alignment versus immediate desire. What looks like rejection might be redirection. Not this way moment, but still yes, on the way.
Trust doesn't mean passivity, though.
No, but stop measuring only by external feedback. Stop assuming delay is denial. Root trust in your relationship with life, no longer needing constant reassurance.
Just because you can't see the growth doesn't mean roots aren't deepening. Not all growth is visible.
Right. The unseen timeline serves emotional maturity, learning to regulate the nervous system without validation, finding peace before the answer arrives, becoming the person who can hold what you want.
Trusting timing means releasing faster is better. Stop comparing. Recognize delay as part of a larger rhythm.
You are not late or tested, but being calibrated. Reality catching up to energy. Trust becomes easier by focusing on the present honor. Enjoy, appreciate today. Current experience prepares you, often in disguise.
Staying present allows seeing the pattern later, understanding the timeline was always for you.
Yes. Trusting the unseen makes you less reactive, less frantic. Stop forcing growth. Learn to be with the process, walk with the unfolding, meet each moment with grace. When desire arrives, it feels like homecoming. You've already become the person. Okay, let's talk about gratitude as an anchor.
Gratitude more than just politeness. The audiobook calls it an energetic anchor, stabilizing frequency, grounding in the present.
It bridges what is and what's coming, like saying, I trust what's here and what's next. Conscious gratitude is a profound declaration of alignment.
Many treat gratitude as a reward after manifestation, but the magic happens when it precedes it.
Exactly. Grateful for what you have while calling in more shifts the energetic posture. Stops broadcasting lack, emits the frequency of already having magnetic, drawing in more of what you appreciate. Signals the field is open, receptive, aligned.
Creates coherent vibrations, stable, resilient, clear. Coherence is everything.
And it keeps you from the illusion that life only begins once the manifestation arrives, which just delays joy. Gratitude interrupts the something is missing cycle, brings you to the fullness of now.
Not forcing good feelings, but choosing to shift focus. Widen perception.
Yes, tune in to quiet ways life supports you. Acknowledge invisible grace. It's a daily recalibration tool. When the mind spirals, return to what's working. Allows gentleness back, remembering energy is your responsibility.
Gratitude is daily sovereignty, holds the field steady.
And a profound healer. Softens the heart, soothes the nervous system, dissolves comparison, invites connection. Living from abundance enoughness in all forms.
Deepen the energy with quiet reflection. Sincere acknowledgement.
Focus on what is true, good, quietly unfolding, simple moments. Appreciating the subtle makes you a magnet for the extraordinary. Gratitude is a state of being, a reminder you're connected to what you seek. Life is already full of signs, rich with meaning, aligned in unseen ways.
Living from that awareness stops chasing, starts receiving, noticing the field becomes spacious.
Gratitude is a co-creative force within, a signal you're in tune, ready, trust the unfolding. From that signal, life responds. Not begging, but remembering what was already working. Path clears, next step obvious. Reality meets you when you stop waiting. Finally, let's discuss living as the magnetic self.
This feels like the ultimate integration. Stop practicing abundance as a concept. Live it as identity. Embody self-worth. Operate from that truth.
Vision board reflects who you are, not just what you call in. The magnetic self, natural state when we stop diluting energy. Inner steadiness, confidence from alignment. Clarity without noise, presence without begging for attention.
Doesn't ask permission to receive expand. Knows its place.
Right. Brings this self into everything, conversations, decisions, habits. Honors time, explains boundaries less, respects energy. Open with discernment, lets in what matches the field.
Doesn't live in waiting. Defer peace, joy, self-love.
No. Speeds up the timeline by stopping the need for the thing to complete you. Fills the present with richness. Future is a natural extension. Releases the habit of over-explaining worth. Stops apologizing for power, clarity, standards.
Aligned will meet you in your energy, not compromise. Calibrates a room with clean, grounded energy. Needs to be true, radiates beyond words.
Makes choices reflecting desired reality, not fears. Creates beauty now. Cultivates intimacy, freedom, joy, and current reality as a statement of already living in the desired energy, embodiment. Honoring the inner world as the foundation of the outer.
Alignment is the natural state. Clear space because you want to. Simplify out of reverence for focus. Hold standards to keep energy clean.
Everything intentional, refined. Life reflects truth, not reaction to fear. Lives in gentle certainty, lets go with grace, attracts without effort, acts with presence, doesn't need external consistency, doesn't panic at shifts, trusts the current.
Understands universe isn't against you, silence isn't absence, delay isn't denial. What is aligned cannot miss you. Doesn't need to grip anything.
Lives in relaxed receptivity, the most powerful frequency. Final evolution. Live from desire, wake up as the one who already is. Life responds because you remembered you never had to earn it. Return to natural state of power, presence, peace. Stopped waiting, started being.
Work was to remember worth. Live from that remembrance. Never meant to beg, but clear, static line field. Receive from calm power.
Detach to attract, a lived frequency. No longer grip, become the one who knows it's hers. Quiet, steady confidence that doesn't need to shout.
Way of being. I am enough now. I am allowing. Everything flows.
Become what you quietly expect. Energy settles, not manipulating life. Sustain frequency by coming home to self, staying rooted in inner knowing. Make peace your baseline. Release timelines. Rewrite defaults. Walk path as if outcome inevitable.
Let this exploration be lived. Reminding you calm is compass, stillness signal, expectation, loudest invitation. Don't need to chase big weight. Just align, embody, trust. Remember, you've always been the one.
So, to quickly recap the key insights we've explored today. That paradox of detachment actually attracting desires, the real power of quiet expectation, understanding we attract who we are, releasing that illusion of control, trusting the unseen timeline, using gratitude as an anchor.
All leading towards living fully as our authentic, magnetic selves.
Exactly. And for you, our learner, we leave you with this final thought to mull over. Consider carefully where in your life you might be currently gripping just a little too tightly onto a desired outcome.
What small, maybe even tiny, courageous act of trust can you consciously take today, right now, to create just a bit more open and receptive, energetic space, making room for what you truly desire to flow effortlessly into your experience?